The greatest disservice you can do to yourself in today's day and age is to limit your learning to the classroom. The typical guy who's in school now studying marketing, they're teaching him the 4 P's of marketing. Fantastic. Until you come out and you need to launch a campaign in the metaverse.
How do we, as young people, tap into technology?
I hope they listen. Number 1.
Kwame A.A. Opoku, popularly known as Futurist Kwame, is a visionary entrepreneur and technology strategist blending leadership, entrepreneurship, and visionary thinking to shape Africa's future. He is a sought-after global speaker, CEO of Future of Africa, and co-founder of Reset Global People, a company focused on innovation, media, and events. Futurist Kwame is committed to empowering African youth and businesses, advocating for the use of cutting-edge technologies and creating sustainable solutions for the continent's growth. His work spans multiple sectors, always centered on creating a better future for Africa through technology, innovation, and purposeful leadership.
You've been doing this for years and also trying to impact. What do you think is stopping people from taking your advice?
Unfortunately, we judge a message by the messenger and not by the content. So
you speak about crypto a lot.
Yeah.
In the Western world, I personally know people who have become millionaires
Yes.
out of trading crypto.
Right.
This part of the world, anytime you talk about BTC, you talk about Ethereum, or you mention these things, scam.
So this is what happened. The first wave of crypto evangelists that came to Ghana, 90% of them.
Hey, thank you so much, beautiful people who always tune in to Connected Minds. Listen to our audio, videos, leave reviews, and let me know how you feel about this podcast. Now, why do I think, again, you should sit with me today and listen to the conversation? So, the man I've got here, look, there's so much, right? He's a global speaker. His name is Futurist Kwame. Now, a lot of the time, when you hear someone speak about the things they know, most people do not know how to explain their concepts properly. This man has it. In fact, I feel like he's a better teacher than most teachers that I've heard. He has over 100,000 students under his belt. He can tell you exactly how to become a millionaire through crypto trading. Because he's done it. That's what he does. And if you're within the African soil and you are thinking of ways how you can monetize yourself, your brand, and be a better person for the society, this is the conversation you need to hear. Don't click anywhere and then stay with me. Subscribe and become part of the family. My brother, how you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing amazing. Good to be here.
Yes, very, very good.
We've been wanting to do this for a while.
For a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. But I feel like,
in his time, he makes all things beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here. My brother was on here before me.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved his session.
Yeah.
It went crazy viral.
Yeah.
And he's like, we need to go. Derek is looking for you. I'm like, okay. Because I had been on some kind of sabbatical for a while now. But thanks for having me, and you're doing amazing.
No, thank you.
You've been doing amazing. When I started talking about podcast, maybe about 8 years ago, that voice was gonna be the next frontier, and that people should start looking at. That's even before they started adding videos to podcast, and it was the audio kind of podcast. When Apple launched podcast, and then we had all these other people jumping, Google, Spotify, everybody. Nobody was paying attention.
Yeah.
So now seeing it, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
And we're trying to grow the entire system.
Absolutely.
To get more people involved in creating.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's how it should absolutely be.
And just so, let me throw this one out there. So a few years ago, this same man predicted that the way the internet is going to be used is going to change. And today is happening. But he's got even more, right? So he's got more predictions for 2030. And he has an event that is coming up where he's going to talk a lot more about that.
Yeah.
So where would you rather be than to sit here and listen to this conversation?
Absolutely.
Because you get your 2030 predictions right from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where do we start?
Where do we start?
Where do we start from? You've there's so much, right? There's so much. But I think the first one would be, you said in one of your interviews,
Right.
the problem is lack of competency,
Absolutely.
not the lack of jobs.
Absolutely. That's a controversial one. And I saw a few blowback comments, but in this work of ours, I'm very, very used to people misunderstanding us. I don't have a problem being misunderstood. If you look at the spectrum of greatness, almost every person we call great in our age was greatly misunderstood in their time. Think about it. You think Martin Luther King was loved during his time? Go look at the day and the kind of stuff they wrote about him. Think about the great builder of this
Even
nation.
Nkrumah.
Nkrumah is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was a madman. Look at him and how we see him today. So I have no problem at all. And to that question, my assertion is there are more jobs ready for people than there are people ready for jobs. And I can defend that any day, right? And the idea is very simple. A lot of people think they are ready for jobs, but really what the marketplace demands from them, they are not up to it. 3-4 years ago, I had an interview for employment, maybe about 18 people, 18, 19, 20 people, thereabout. And what happened was we spent probably the most wasteful 5 hours of my life. 18 people that were interviewed, and I had a guy come in that wanted to be head of social, content management, social media, digital marketing, stuff like that. His salary ask was higher than my salary as CEO. And I asked him one simple thing. If I was to send you a document now, how fast can you sign it and bring it back to me? His response, please send it. I'll run out, go print it, sign it, scan it, get it on my phone and send it back to you.
You're probably thinking to yourself, in this day and age?
What? So the point that I'm making with that, and go sit with them, people who actually employ, go sit with them and they will tell you, employers will tell you the quality of competent people that enter into the marketplace is dropping further and further. And I don't blame the people. Somewhat, everybody is responsible. 2 days ago, yesterday, I wrote on my stories on Instagram, know the role you play in your own suffering. Partly, everybody is responsible somewhat for their own lives. But first, I think there is something fundamentally wrong with our education. And so the individual's responsibility would have been for everything that I am given in the classroom, thanks to the internet and the ubiquitous nature of being able to access information and knowledge, I am going to have an independent educational structure outside of what I'm taught in the classroom.
Right.
So that the idea is the greatest disservice you can do to yourself in today's day and age is to limit your learning to the classroom, right? That's just dead and gone, because we have not updated our educational systems for the last 4 centuries. We haven't. And so the typical guy who's in school now studying marketing, they're teaching him the 4 P's of marketing. Fantastic. I don't have any problem with that until you come out and you need to launch a campaign in the metaverse, or you need to do some kind of market activation with immersive technologies. How do you do marketing with VR? How do you do marketing with Ray-Bans? Has a collaboration with Facebook for their Quest glasses.
Yes.
Now they've connected it to Neuralink. So before, when you wore the Ray-Bans or Meta Quest, you had to throw your hand in the air. Now I hear that the Meta Quest XX or something can connect to Neuralink, and instead of waving your hands, you think
do it mentally.
Thank you. So if you're head of marketing who just graduated out of business school, having been taught the 4 P's, place, price, promo, where do you fit in?
Yeah.
A lot of people used to look at me and say, one, you are crazy. All these things you're saying, or you both things, they will never happen in Ghana. Until you realize that when iPhone 16 is launched, we have it in Ghana 2 hours later. So eventually, dear mechanic, everything you know is going to be a problem, because now we don't have cars anymore. We have computers on wheels. They are called electric cars. So the guy that is fixing your Audi, your Benz, your Range Rover, your I mean, Sonata, whatever car you're driving, when you switch to Tesla, or when eventually fuel cars are outlawed, because remember, we used to freaking ride around in horses, and nobody thought a day was gonna come. Right? Remember when the TV stations, they wanted to outlaw it, like Tikopo TV?
Yep.
Nobody told you. Eventually, your TV will be there. You watch it once now. Because nothing will come. You needed to switch digital. So eventually, when we switch to electric cars, these are not cars. These are computers on wheels. Dear mechanic, what would you do? Now, some people are having those kinds of problems. There are certain cars that certain people drive that when they get a problem, they need to find a cargo lifting company and let it take it out there to get it fixed. Right? So it's an idea of competence. And the problem again with it is that the world is moving so fast that the skill that you have today that is very much sought after, needed, and highly paid for could be dead tomorrow. So again, I say there are more jobs ready for people than there are people ready for jobs.
We run interviews almost every now and then.
Yes, sir.
At the show.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get 30 CVs.
Yes, sir.
You're only interviewing one person.
Yes, please.
Because the quality, as you said, is so low.
What people don't realize is CVs are the legally licensed ways of lying about yourself.
That's true.
Ain't nobody can write anything.
That's true.
You know, I've heard people say eloquent, super aficionado in communication, and then they come and they say, "Oh, stand up and give us a 5-minute, presentation of yourself, your ideals, and where you see the world going in 5 years." And they're fumbling. Wait, I thought you said you were a super communicator. What happened? So right now, people are realizing that CVs don't matter.
Yes,
it doesn't count for anything. In fact, in the last 5 years, I've not received any contract or job on the basis of my CV. The market is now looking at results.
Yep.
Competence, results, track record, delivery. That's all they care about. So there's a little boy wearing boxer shorts right now, eating popcorn, sitting behind his computer, churning out 8 websites per week for different businesses, and would never even meet them face to face. Then there's a person who went to IPMC or computer school with the degree. I
was there. I was actually at that school at level 300.
Thank you.
I was scouting for someone who can help, develop our company website.
No.
And I sat with them and I saw the things they did, and I was like,
no, I
used to do this when I was 17
HTML, yes, sir. Bro, there are more jobs. I don't care. There are more jobs ready for people. And I know look, it can be better. And maybe we get in that conversation later. Yeah. I'm not saying everything is fine. I'm not saying there are enough jobs for all of us. But I'm saying even with the number of available jobs and the amount of people coming into the marketplace, the competence, the quality, the ability to deliver, work under such a fast pace, move. We don't have it. We don't.
Before I go on to my next question. So when I told some of my audience that you were coming today,
right,
I had lots of questions. Many of them I couldn't actually go through.
Right.
And these are the names of my people, specifically on YouTube, who asked a lot of questions. And I've summarized all the questions into everything we're going to talk about today.
Sure.
So I want to give a shout out to you guys that actually brought in the questions. Edward Asiedu, J. Frimpon, Movie Trailix, Most High 18, Most High. Speed with Abdul, Village Boy is the same Village Boy again. This is one of our most popular member. Ama Adoma TV, Samuel Semado. Now, thank you guys so much for bringing that in for us, because I've summarized it and I couldn't really ask the questions one after the other. Otherwise, it's going to make it long. The question is, while we're speaking about jobs and competencies around, this part of the world, there's something that always comes to mind.
Right.
You see, Africa is quickly adopting the whole technology stuff.
Absolutely.
But we also have a pool of people who don't actually have jobs to do at the moment.
Right.
But then IT is coming in.
Yeah.
AI is coming in.
Yep.
To take away these jobs that people don't also
already have. Yeah.
So how do we marry the two together?
Fantastic question. I've been asked this question in almost every country, every continent I have traveled to speak in. Now, there's no easy answer for this, so brace yourself. Technology is not the enemy. If you think about it, people think about technology as the clunky hardware and the software. But at base, technology is anything that makes life and work easier, faster, and far more efficient to do. That's tech. So people naturally will not think about fire as technology. But if you understand what fire did for our civilization, you realize how much of a potent technology it was. People do not think about steam engines as technology. People do not think about electricity as technology, radio as technology, television as technology, microwave as technology. The idea is technology always comes in to make life easier, work easier, cheaper, and far more efficient, right? So that you don't now need to finish cooking and then turn on the stove and pour the food again into a bowl. You put it into something, you click on it, and the technology does the work using whatever electromagnetic waves. That's technology. Once you understand it like that, it shifts your mind to start looking at technology as, how do I partner with it? As opposed to how do I fight against it? And so the point I'm making is tech has always taken the redundant, repetitive jobs that eats up human creativity so that it can free up humans to do the more humane stuff. Think about that. Think about what the calculator did for us. Because if I now sat down here and we needed to use manual cognition to do 3 times 249 times the square root of 84. Come on, man.
Someone is going to walk out of the room.
So calculators came so they can do that quote and unquote redundant work of calculation. As far as we understand the basic principles of mathematics, algebra, and how they move, then we can let the calculator do its work. But once we go out of there, you can now free the human mind, because the human mind is for intuitive thinking, imagination, creative enterprises, ethics, the things that actually make our world move. I want to set this foundation so that people stop looking at technology as their enemy. Think about the fact that if cars didn't come, you'll be riding around in this hot sun on your horse.
Yeah.
And if there was a horse plague, all horses could die in one go. Think about that. So once we understand that, we will know that, guy, I found out the other day, there used to be a job so highly sought after that super high, like engineers of today, structural engineers or whatever. Do you know what that job is? Elevator operators.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Wear suits and they will stand and they will operate the elevator. The reason why people look at our world the way it is because people don't study history. If you study history, you will calm down. Like, think about it. No matter how crazy you think our world is now, just so you understand, bro, you and I would have been recruited into the army by 17 at most. If we live just 60 to 100 years ago. In the Second World War, it is 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds that were being recruited. So again, now let's answer the question. Once you understand this fundamental, the one simple question you have is, how do I build non-technology cannibalizing skills?
Right.
How do I build skills that technology cannot swallow? Period. Once you answer that question, you will be in what we call the evergreen industries. There are certain industries, regardless and irrespective of the economic temperatures, regardless and irrespective of what's happening in terms of technological advancements, the geopolitical landscape, they are still in demand. You want a good example? When COVID came, they gave a term to a certain group of people. They call them essential.
Yes, essential
workers.
Services.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So the idea here is, first understand that you cannot fight technology. You will lose.
But this part of the world, I guess, leading up to the conversation,
yes,
how is all going to pan out? How do we, as young people,
yes,
tap into technology?
I hope they listen. Number one, take your own education into your own hands. I'm an autodidact. An autodidact is self-taught. It's somebody who has taken their learning into their own hands. Never in the history of the world has knowledge been this accessible, democratized, ubiquitous, and cheap. Never. A young boy in Kuala Lumpur who has access to Google has more access to information than Bill Clinton did when he was president.
That's true.
Think about that. So number one, take your own education into your own hands. Number two, regardless and irrespective of whatever industry you're in, develop what we call computational thinking. Computational thinking is the idea that whatever it is you're building, build it in a broader scope and understanding of which technologies fit in and which technologies will most likely disrupt what you're looking to build. Computational thinking. Develop digital literacy. Know what's happening. Know what's happening with the basic things. A lot of us fundamentally use our phones for the most base of things when you think about what we can do with technology, right? So number one, take your own education into your own hands. What are you learning? Learn the skills of the future. Plug in to the matrix. Unfortunately, plug into the matrix and look at what is being built in all industries and keep your fingers on the pulse. Plug into AI. Plug into what is happening with quantum computing. Plug into what is happening on the edge of VR and MR and augmented reality. Plug into all the technologies that are emerging. Electric cars, what does that mean? Nanotechnology in health, what does that mean? Robotic doctors. There's so many people in health that don't know what's about to hit them. Simple example I'll give to continue this. You do realize that neither the aviation industry nor the media industry saw the drone coming. Think about that. Used to be to get an aerial shot, we will fly a helicopter into the air, put a cameraman with his backup, get a pilot, and we shoot an aerial shot. Neither aviation nor media saw it coming. One guy sat and said, what cumbersome thing is that? What if I could merge aviation with media? And it disrupted the entire industry. Now the helicopter the helicopter pilot is gone. The camera guy who's in there is gone. The helicopter owner is gone. And with $100 from Amazon, you have a drone flying. So again, take your education into your own hands. Sit down and do the research. Computational thinking, digital literacy, and finally, every time you see a new industry emerge, apply yourself by seeking the knowledge, practice the knowledge, develop a competent skill. Immediately you do these three things: document the process, take it out as value, and give it to the market.
Free content.
Period.
You've built a brand.
You've built a brand. You've built the documentation of a process of creating value that another person can say, okay, so this is how it's done, and they will pay for it.
You've been doing this for years.
I've been doing this for 14 years.
Right. And also trying to impact knowledge, on the
Absolutely.
belief. What do you think is stopping people from taking your advice?
Unfortunately, we judge a message by the messenger and not by the content of what is coming out. So, one, Kwame, let's come them in the cool school. So because of that, you don't listen to Kwame for the substance of what he's saying. Your perception of Kwame has watered down that which Kwame is saying. So what I've realized is I've had greater audience, greater impact, greater effect in markets that I was foreign to than I have had in my own market.
I think there's a biblical quote that
a prophet is without honor in his own home.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number one is they look at the messenger and they downplay the message. Number two is, I hope they don't eat me up, but we need to say the uncomfortable truth. Number two is people are generally lazy, is the word.
Okay.
When they hear it, their first response is pessimism.
Right.
It's a scam. And you're not correct. Everybody made money by starting with one egg.
they did it to COD recently. They did it to him. And, I was on Twitter.
We laughed the whole night.
What I retweeted, I saw it, I said, no way.
We laughed exactly, right? So people don't hear it and say, okay, let me give myself the benefit of the doubt and go and try out this information and see if there is any substance to it. Think about it. Kindergarten, crèche, class 1 through 6, JHS 1 through 3, SHS 1 through 3 or 4, depending on what year you went, give or take 15 to 20 years of your life, you left with an A4 sheet.
Yes.
And I'm not in any way downplaying education. I love education. So don't get me wrong. But somebody has presented a body of knowledge in a 12-hour course, in a 1-hour podcast, and he's saying this is possible. And you cannot take an hour and go and try it out and see, but you can wear your brown suit, take your brown envelope, walk on this scorching sun for the last 3 years, putting envelope in office after office.
And yet nothing is coming out.
And yet nothing is coming. But you will not give Kwame's presentation a 1-hour consideration where you're sitting in the comfort of your home with your laptop. Click this as I do, open this as I do. Is it possible? Did it work? Does anything come out? Ooh, I got my first dollar. If I got my first dollar, where's the next 1,000 coming from? Nope, they won't do it. Status quo. We have been so limited to what we have been told works that when we're looking at an optimal, better way of things being done, no.
Do you think at the core of what you're saying, it's cultural?
I think it's cultural. I think it's somewhat cultural. I think it's also on the individual level, because I've seen young people who I know about 2 guys who watched my YouTube channel one night and came back to me and said, I've written my first book. I'm using AI to write my first code for a project. I have examples like that. So I think it's cultural, but it's overarchingly cultural. But I think it's also at the individual level that people it's like the status quo. Mama said, go to school, do your national service, find a job. Go to school, did my national service, I'm finding a job. Anything else doesn't look like it's worth your time.
Because I know that you write a lot of biblical quotes, right, and you have serious love for the things of God.
Right.
I'm going to ask you this question.
Sure.
Because the first submission I made was cultural. Now the next one is, do you think it's religious as well?
Ooh. Yes. I think there is a gospel that has, oh Jesus, help me. I think there's a gospel that has plagued especially the African continent. I say to a lot of the people that I think biblically with, that a lot of our preachers, maybe an overwhelming 80, 90%, would not have a sermon if they should go to the Western cultures. We have a gospel that thrives in poverty. Okay. We have a gospel that incapacitates in order to control and manipulate. So the more we can render the people poor and needy, the more we can...
and they become dependent, right? And
yes,
they keep coming to church.
That's how it works. However, that's not what the gospel is. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's in our songs. Think about the kind of songs we sing. I'm not going to sing anybody's song to get in trouble, but think about the typical so-called Ghanaian worship.
Okay.
It's a wail. It's a dirge.
Yeah.
It sounds like a funeral song. That's what we call worship. Right? So that's what somewhat we have brought. The gospel that Christ came preaching was the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of the kingdom says, you're dead, you're in darkness. I'm going to translate you first from death into light, and from death into life, and from darkness into light. And when I take you from darkness into light, I'm going to establish you in a kingdom. A kingdom needs a king, it needs a territory, it needs citizens, and it needs laws. Immediately you enter the kingdom, the well-being of the citizens is dependent on the king. The weight of a king was dependent on how well his citizens were doing. This is the reason why we should never have lost our kingdom structure and move to democracy. Right. Democracy is probably one of the worst things that happened to this continent, but let's not go there. I don't want to be controversial. So when you come in, Jesus says a couple of things that are very important. Number one, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So when you come in, he says, my church is the ground of truth and the pillar of truth. So when you come in, what you're supposed to have an encounter with is an encounter with truth. You have an encounter with truth spiritually. You have an encounter with truth socially. You have an encounter with truth physically. You have an encounter with truth financially. You need to understand what are kingdom economics. What is kingdom parenting? What is kingdom enterprise? Because none of those things. But that domain of knowledge has been kept generally from the populace because there was a certain gospel.
Has it been kept, or some of the people don't know?
Hurt people.
Right.
So most of the modern day preachers were handed down that watered down gospel. So that's what they know.
Right.
So that's what they hand down.
Right.
And because the people themselves are used to the status quo, nobody is questioning, wait, why this and why that? Why can I apply kingdom principles to get a miracle in healing, but I can't apply kingdom principles to get a miracle in finance? Yeah. So it's cultural, there's a religious
element,
there is government, it's huge.
You if I choose to get deeper where you are, right? Yeah. Where the conversation is, I think it's gonna take a whole different
right?
Because I've got so much, and I'm like, okay, let's take it a step.
Let's build it.
Another step. You know, you speak about crypto a lot.
Yeah.
And your background has also been digital marketing.
Yes.
From the SEOs to the SERPs.
Absolutely.
You know, you've done a lot of that.
Yes.
Let's take the crypto first.
Right.
And before I say it, the reason I want to bring this conversation up is because in the Western world,
right,
I personally know people who have become millionaires.
Yes.
Out of trading crypto.
Right.
I know people who are handling millions of dollars.
Yeah.
On accounts.
Yes, sir.
And this part of the world, anytime you talk about BTC, you talk about Ethereum, or you mention these things, scam.
Absolutely. So this is what happened. Let me defend the people first. The first wave of crypto evangelists that came to Ghana, 90% of them scammed people.
Okay.
So they used knowledge asymmetry, the fact that people didn't know enough about the industry, and they said, give me your money and let me run it for you. And when they did, they basically borderline straightforward scammed the people. So the first generation of people who had experience with crypto was, hey, me
right. So how dare you?
How dare you?
Okay.
Right? So I don't blame them. However, crypto, for me, crypto is such a little bug in a huge monstrosity of possibilities that is coming that we're not even seeing. So this is what I mean. Crypto basically gives us an indication of the future of money, 2030. I am of the opinion, spiritually informed, paying attention to the data and everything that's happening, that by 2030 currency will fail. At least cash currency will fail.
It's already started failing in the
Thank
UK.
you very much. There's a reason, by the way, dear Ghanaians, that they moved everything biometric. Let's not go there. Now, because the only way you can digitize an entire ecosystem is to be able to digitize identity. Anyway, again, we'll have the other conversations outside of here. So crypto gives us an indication of the future of money. We heard about ECD. We heard about e-Naira. It's coming. Mobile money. Anyway, we'll get there. So crypto gives us an indication of the future of money. The idea was we have built all of our systems as humanity on centralized systems. If you look at banks are centralized. There's no communication necessarily between Bank A or Bank B. Bank A has the server, Bank B has the server, and then they have the overall Bank of Ghana that sort of corrects out and balances out the portfolios. So actually, normally money doesn't necessarily move. So that if you send money from account A to account B, the money is not necessarily going to move. When the evening comes, the Bank of Ghana will look at it and say, okay, how much money was sent from Bank A to Bank B, and how much was sent from Bank B to Bank A? They would sort of balance that out and say, okay, so who owes who what? And then that's more, that difference is sent out. That's actually how banks work. Banks are very centralized. If you look at immigration is centralized. If you look at democracy, we have representative democracy. So the whole of this Ayawaso West will choose one person, and the idea is that one person represents our interest in the best of what would be great for us, and they go to parliament and they make decisions for us. Then we saw that with our financial systems, education, everything is centralized, and we realized it keeps failing. So after the 2008 financial crisis, they started to think about, we keep trusting these people and they keep doing the same thing. Human greediness, people fumble, all sorts of mistakes, vested interest, cabals are formed, and then it becomes an issue. So what would it take, especially now that when we look at finance, we realize that the petrodollar is backed by nothing.
Yep.
Which means currency is a product of faith. You believe it's $100. I believe it's $100. So it's $100. So a guy came up and said, look, the government all these governments and federal banks are actually cheating us. If all it takes is faith, then let's create our own digital gold since we have computers now. So Satoshi Nakamoto, whether he's a person, a group of people, a man, a woman, bless his soul, wherever he is, comes up with the idea for a peer-to-peer currency system. But what he built it on top is what I think is the real thing, fundamentally changes our world forever. Blockchain technology. Yeah. Blockchain technology says we don't need trust to be able to deal. We have what we call a public ledger. So a public ledger is, instead of a private ledger that is owned by, for instance, only Ghana Immigration Service, who owns all our immigration data on their single server. Ghana Health Service owns all our health data on their server. They own it, centralized. We're trusting that they are doing the right thing with our data. Facebook owns all our data. We're trusting. X, same thing. Instagram, same thing. WhatsApp, same thing. Centralized service. What if we could build a decentralized infrastructure where we don't need to trust one person, but all of us are party to everything that is happening? That's what a blockchain is. The blockchain is a public notebook. Every transaction, every transfer of value and data is stored transparently, and everybody who is connected to it is a witness to what is happening. So that in order for you to change anything on the blockchain, you need to find every single computer that has ever.
That's tough.
Immutability. I tell people I think that the blockchain takes on, not in a blasphemous way, takes on some of the attributes of the Word of God. It is immutable. You can't do anything to it. It's sensor proof. You cannot take out, you cannot add to it. I feel like it's a spirit technology. I feel it's one of the spirit technologies. Think about the possibility of blockchain in dealing with electoral fraud. So 7th December, we all pick our devices. It's blockchain enabled. So you vote in your home. We don't go stand out in the sun. Nobody gets cut with a cutlass. Police don't arrest anybody. Everybody home. Vote. Immediately you vote. It records into the blockchain. Everybody sees the transparent data real time on the EC. The EC doesn't need to be trusted because it's blockchain. They can't add, they can't take. By evening of 7th December, everything is already collated. The president that is won is there.
Yeah.
No pink sheets, no going back to count, nothing. So crypto is the future of money. Crypto is part of the future of money. Governments are getting on board because if you can't beat them, you join them.
That's right.
Governments are building what is called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which is basically their own form of crypto. The whole world is moving towards that. The earlier, the better. It can easily be scammed because it's a new industry. It happens everywhere. People get scammed in banking. People get scammed in real estate. People get scammed in oil. You think crypto is a scam? Try gold. But people try gold and they don't come out, and every day somebody mentions gold, they don't go scam. So there's just something about technology that really annoys people.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually spoke with one of your friends.
Yes.
And he said, when you first spoke to him about crypto, he wasn't for the idea.
No.
And you were like, you know what? Just put $400 in there.
Yeah.
Just do it. If you don't believe it, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just put this money in there. And he did it.
And then he started shouting.
So he said, right? He said he was in South Africa. And something told me, let's check this thing that
Kwame made me do.
Yeah. And the thing had gone up.
Boom.
He had tripled.
Boom. 1,003.
Yeah.
He come, he said, bro, take him out. He's getting money. Yeah. It's not all up. Like any industry, you need to do your due diligence. You need to understand the pecs. You need to understand how the market works. You need to understand basic supply and demand, basic economics. But that thing they call crypto, I have not seen any industry that makes it possible for a man to go to bed with $1,000 in their wallet, wake up the next morning a millionaire. Never in the history of the world.
Never ever.
No way.
Ghana.
Yep.
There are a few people that have tried it.
Yes.
Cheddar tried it.
Yes. Came a problem. Freedom Coin. They didn't launch.
I have a bit of information, which I don't really want to push you, but I have a bit of information.
Yeah.
He tried it. The Bank of Ghana.
Big ups Cheddar, by the way.
Messed the whole thing up.
Yes, sir.
But now, we are seeing what the Bank of Ghana are trying to do. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some gold coin.
Yes, sir.
They're
things. They're doing things.
So, what do you think it is about the whole, coin that you guys were trying to bring out that didn't really work? Why did they clamp down on it?
Every governments, by their very nature, are anti-innovation.
Okay.
The reason is because innovation disrupts the status quo. Once it disrupts the status quo, you take people who have vested interest in the corruption of the status quo, you take food from their table. So we could have fully digitized our passport immigration system. When your passport dies, you just go online, you fill the form, it gets printed, you bring it. No, there are 1,000 people in the chain who you will meet. Meet me, I am out 3 days,
right.
I'm 1,000.
Right.
Those people cannot allow that to happen. Number two, when it comes to money is one of the major things that gives governments sovereignty.
Okay.
Immediately they allow individuals. That's what they hated about crypto the most. Immediately individuals can create currency. You start weakening the sovereignty of governments in the ability to create currency. However, the ordinary person should ask, why did they clamp down one just to bring up the exact same thing?
Yeah.
Why? So, government issues, I'm very careful.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. So, we're going to talk a lot more about the whole digital marketing.
Yes, sir.
How businesses can utilize, digital spaces to scale. But, there's a shift, right? So, when you come here, there are a lot of brick and mortar businesses that don't necessarily have online presence.
Yeah.
How can these businesses transition online?
The first thing is for them to understand. I used to hear clients we used to approach back in the day say, oh, my business, you're there, the technology, you're there, you're financial. The first thing they need to understand is in the coming days and in the coming weeks and in the coming months and in the coming years, every business is going to be a technology business. It will just differ which part of your value chain interfaces with technology. But there's no business. At worst, you will need some kind of data management system, some CRM system that allows you to make data-driven decisions. You need some kind of AI interface that automates some of the processes of data collection, data analysis, and giving you No business is going to get away from that. Then the how. The how is very simple. I say to people, you have two options. Option number one, if you do have the means and the resources, get a research and development team. Like I said, aviation, media, none of them saw a drone coming. Neither airlines nor hotels saw Skype coming. If you know what Skype did to long distance and how much it affected travel.
Yeah.
So whatever business you're in, at worst, find a research and development team that is actively waking up, coming into the office once a week, once a month. I don't know how you're going to structure it, but 31 days a month, they are looking at innovations that are breaking through in your industry and in adjacent industries. I'll give you a good example. There's something called 3D printing. In fact, take the time and research 3D printing and then research it all the way to 7D printing. 3D printing, I then heard of 4D. If my data is right, 4D printing is we can print this and it looks like this. But when it arrives, I can add a certain chemical solution and this becomes a tent, or this becomes the tent cover. Do you know what this does to shipping and cargoes? Because if I was bringing the entire tent, you would charge by weight and the space. Now I'm bringing this thing.
I saw a towel like that.
Thank you very much.
Towel.
Thank you.
It was so small.
4D printing.
And as soon as they put it in water, the thing.
Part of the value proposition for construction is the time it takes. Now you can 3D print a house in 24 hours.
Yeah.
What's up, cement makers and all these people? And because of printing, we are looking at new material. So whatever business you are, get a research and develop. You need to know what is happening. That's all I'm saying. You cannot conquer and be part of what you don't know. So know what's happening in the innovation landscape, what technologies are coming out, right? Then look at how do I apply it to my business? If you do not have the means to actually employ a research and development department, you, the CEO, become the research and development guy in your own business. Know what's happening. And then once you have that, the how, once you get the what, the how would apply itself. The beautiful thing, I tell you one of my secrets, hopefully it helps someone. This is how, should I tell them? This is how I move. Per the principle of there is nothing new under the sun. There is no avant-garde idea. There's nothing you're about to do that nobody has done before. So dear, whatever business you're in, all you need to do is research on those businesses in 5 different continents. What are they doing? What is working? What is there that our market doesn't have? Take that data, contextualize it to your space, to your economic indicators, to your socio-economic, outlook, and then apply. Because there's nothing new. When I wanted to get into the SDGs a couple years ago, and I wanted to do a youth festival that makes the SDGs practical to youth, I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. I picked 2% of what Sweden was doing, 4% of what Australia was doing, 15% of what the US was doing, 8% of what Canada did, 7% of what UK did, put it together, and I had a monster, super creative, super innovative event and organization.
Wow. We're just about to get deeper. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Leave a review. Let us understand what you think about this conversation so far. Okay. Can businesses in Africa scale to the level of major Western businesses with technology?
If we ever had a chance, this is it.
Chance.
If we ever had the opportunity. The reason is, prior to technology, I need to set up for this one. Prior to technology, the financing structures that finance our governments forbade us from ever standing the chance to go global. Think about the fact that Ivory Coast and Ghana are two of some of the biggest countries that produce cocoa. Yet we do not export more than 15% of the world's consuming cocoa. Such that Switzerland, that has not a single cocoa tree, as I heard, takes our cocoa, sometimes even gives us the price they want to pay for it, make the chocolate and import it to us. And you go, wait, why? Then you understand that there are certain financial structuring that has gone into debts.
Right.
That has gone into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is only now that Africa has that opportunity. So if you look at some of the work Mr. Easy is doing with his Empower group of companies, if you look at some of the major companies that went, global, Jumia and the rest of them, is Jumia African? I hope so. Tonaton and some of these other companies. If you look at Nigeria, they churned out some amazing payment companies that went global. All of them did it on the bedrock of technology. So what I'm saying is, if we actually have a chance of going, Dangote is crying that the oil mafia, Africa's richest man, is crying that the oil mafia is mafiaing him. If we ever have a chance of going global, technology is it. Apart from that, I don't see another way.
When you just mentioned the whole Dangote stuff, the man he's invested over 5 billion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In that project, and
he's been strangled.
In fact, they used his own people.
Yes, sir.
They've started with his own people
to
frustrate him.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Africa.
Meanwhile, what that refinery is going to do for...
Welcome to Africa.
Yeah.
We need to go and investigate who did this to us. Ghana, to that Black Star, we need to investigate it.
But I kind of have a feeling it's our own people. They use us against us.
Yes, sir.
Because if they come in and we're all saying that, no, we're not going to
work. Yeah. Yeah, it's our own people.
Yeah, it's us.
That's one of the biggest problems. We do not have a collective identity that is grounded in a shared purpose. Yeah, so it's stomach direction, everybody for himself.
Yeah. It's crazy. We can't think like that, especially for a country that's so
rich.
But we speak about these issues all the time.
Yes,
but
sir.
I feel like even while we are speaking about it, we are still part and parcel of it.
Yes, sir.
And if you dig deep, there are certain benefits that the system you are benefiting from.
Yeah.
That is, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So we are all part of it. We are all part of it. I kind of have a feeling that's how it's been set up within the system.
Yes, sir.
We talk about it, but we're part of it.
Yeah, we are all part.
I've said this before, and I don't like to make things sound like politics, but the leaders we have, most of them are diasporans. They've traveled. They understand things better than we do. Clever people. But what happens? But anyway, the year 2030. I saw the flyer, right?
Yes, sir.
And then I said, this is so futurist.
Yes, sir.
Just as your brand name is.
Yes, sir.
The logo, like the brand, the whole thing about it. Like I'm seeing some Mansa Musa connected with some robots. Like what's happening?
The Nimrod monopoly idea. So I chose Nimrod. Nimrod is a Bible character who is associated generally with technology, that he knew the technology of warfare, that weaponry, that he was taught weaponry by fallen angels, that there's a biblical myth like that. When I say biblical myth, people hide it under the Bible, but it's a legend of sorts. Okay. So that's Nimrod. Nimrod was the king of Babel. You remember the group of guys that said, let us build a city whose height will reach into the heavens. Yep. And then God came down, confounded their language, and then they spread. And that's how we have all these multiplicity of languages. So Nimrod is connected to technology and, of course, monopoly. The idea was to do a faith-based event and tell the church that technology is not of the devil. And that if we keep going at the rate that we're going, Babylon will swallow us. Where is this interview going? Which platform is it going on?
It's going on YouTube.
Pause. If you decided to take 5 minutes for us to talk about Jesus and YouTube decided they didn't like it, what happens to the content?
No one sees it.
Thank you very much. So the idea of the Nimrod monopoly is that we need to understand that at the core of technology, based on the little research I've done, it's a spiritual invention, and it was given for the propagation of the kingdom. I, for instance, believe that if you think about it, at its core, technology, number one, forever, oh God, thy word is settled. Have you heard the internet never forgets? There's a term called the internet never forgets. That whatever you put on the internet is stuck.
Yes.
And then there's a biblical scripture, forever, oh God, thy word is settled. How does that sound to you? That anything, this content you put immediately goes online. It is forever. The ones they wrote on stones, we had floods, we had earth shift summer, and that's how our history has become very redundant. If you talk about blockchain, for instance, that's essential proof. If you put these contents on, that's it. Now, think about the fact that the church, there's a video going viral, Coca-Cola customizing their cans. You can put Satan is good. You can put any name you want on the can. You type Jesus, is not allowed.
Wow.
And Coca-Cola is receiving a huge backlash. But again, the idea of the Nimrod monopoly is this. Dear children of light, saints, Bible-believing Christians, whatever designation you have, between now and 2030, the global sustainable development goals would have hit its peak. Just like we had the Millennium Development Goals, and they didn't achieve it, so they reworded it and relaunched it as Sustainable Development Goals. In 2030, they're going to sit down and they're going to reword it. The World Economic Forum has put out a 600-page document on what they're going to do. I've read it. I've studied it. Based on that, and based on blueprints in the Bible, I can tell you exactly where the world is going in 2030. Dear church, be prepared. That's it. 2018, I had something called Church Without Walls. I wanted to go to churches and tell them technology is an enabler, and it's going to be a very effective tool in spreading the gospel. No church gave me the chance. If they did, I would have walked them through creating strong channels on socials, building their own infrastructure, their streaming services, at least for those who have the capability. Then in 2020, they would have been fine. In 2020, so many churches suffered that have never gotten back up.
That's true.
Think about it now. If you know anything about Ghana television, over 100 plus Christian channels sit on multi-TV. If multi-TV today had a Muslim come up and he decided he's taking all the Christian channels off in one sweep, every single Christian channel on multi-TV will come down. I do not speak for any man, but a man lived, left a legacy, died, was attacked by 5 or 6 or 7 accusers, and in one day, BBC releases a documentary. In that same day, his channel gets taken off DSTV, his channel gets deleted on YouTube, and 50 plus years of work for humanity disappeared on the face of the earth. Why? Because you're building on the platforms of your enemy. Nimrod monopoly. Babylon has monopoly over all the tech that you and I use.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. So I'm going to take my time. It's a 2-hour lecture and look at everything the World Economic Forum said in their 600-page document. Look at everything the Bible has said that sits right on top of that 600-page document and say, here is what it means. In this area, do this. In that area, do this. 2 things, and it should be enough. By the way, the thing is sold out. There's no, I opened it for 250, 700 people registered. It's gone. So I'm not doing this for advertisement. So maybe this helps you. Have you heard of the idea in Genesis when God is creating about every fruit and tree bearing of itself with seed in it? That's the idea of God's sustainability plan, not global sustainability. God's sustainability plan was everything I create has within its seed.
Yes.
And that seed becomes the guarantee for succession.
Yes.
So when they say GMO, what do they mean? Isn't isn't it interesting that the Bible said God threw up a bowl in the sky and say, this is a testimony to my covenant with you, and I'm not going to use flood to turn the earth upside down. In the throne room in the book of Revelation, we see that there's a rainbow on top of the throne. And then a group of people emerge, and the only colors they could take as a logo was the rainbow.
I know where this one is going. Charlie, I hear say you are very good with FIFA.
And they play rough.
So when I saw that thing, I said, you know what? I have a guy who's very good medical.
Medicals called me already. Forget that boy. But that was like 3 years ago. We need to play a game.
I said I want to call that man.
Medical, meaning the rock medical. You that small game we play. With that game we come. You they run from me like this. Almost 3 years. The boy they run. We play like 5 games. He won 3.
I have seen him play.
Medical is a stubborn boy when it comes to FIFA.
I still think he'll finish you.
No, these days I'm dangerous. I'm very, very dangerous.
Okay.
I stopped playing the 24. Funny enough, yesterday, I switched to the 25. I got the game yesterday. So I started playing the 25. But if he wants us to go back to the 20, no, me and Medical have played.
No, I'm going to holler at him. This needs to happen.
No, we need to. He's been running away since. Stone boy, you collect 5-0. Come and redeem yourself. You know yourself. Oh, that boy is there. They know. Angel. Tell my boy. No, they do like.
No, but MDK, I've seen the guy play.
MDK is stubborn. No, but ask him. Ask him. You ask him, say, Kulaperim boy, how he go? He didn't run since.
But he finished you before.
He do me small. That was, I think, before 23.
23. Okay. Yeah. At that time, he was hot.
No, that boy was mad.
He was hot.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. I just thought I should throw this one in there for a bit of entertainment for the people that love entertainment. But this part of the conversation where I want to go, look, you are very good with, branding.
Yes, sir.
Especially on the consultancy side.
Yes, sir.
And I know there's this man in Ghana where you've been involved in a brand for him that people know.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure whether I can mention it.
Feel free.
The Freedom Jacob Caesar brand.
Yes, sir.
I have intel that tells me that you are one. In fact, you were a consultant on that panel.
Yes, sir.
To create that brand.
Yes, sir.
How did that conversation start?
COVID. I come back. So COVID, I was in Nigeria. We're about to do an event that will change our lives forever. I'd moved there with my team. I came to Ghana to come and speak 3 conferences in a row. I entered Ghana, they locked down. My team was in Nigeria, they locked down. So we were stuck. And so when they reopened the country, Nigeria was still on lockdown. And I needed to do something in that period. So a very good friend of mine said, Cheddar is looking to bring in young, bright people, give them a chance to work with him. And I think you'll fit. So let's go see him. We had the first meeting, had a conversation, threw a few ideas, did a follow-up meeting, put a document together and say, hey, come in, let's see what can happen. I got in there and the rest, they say, is history. So I went in as a consultant, and then from there, before I realized I was literally like doubling as an executive assistant. I was with him everywhere. I was serving as much as I could. And it was one of the most privileged moments of my life because they don't know the man. That young man is one of the most wise human beings with soul that I've met. That much I can say. There's so much they don't know about the man.
Yeah,
so much.
But you've done fantastic on the branding side because a lot of people can relate to that brand.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's what it really set him apart.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
So you did well.
Yes, sir.
But where did you learn that?
Branding. So again, I'm a read it, apply it. Does it work? Keep it. It doesn't work. Throw it away. Read, apply kind of guy. So
do you have a degree?
Yes, I went to University of Ghana.
Complete?
Yes.
The guy, look, one of your friends said, Futurist, he's a genius,
Yeah.
And then I said, yeah, I figured that out.
To be honest, the A4 sheet is still in University of Ghana. I've not.
You haven't collected
I don't have the paper. I don't have the paper. I thank God that I'm able to learn and it sticks and I'm able to apply. Yeah. So I used myself as the first test. I built my own brand from ground up. And then I like I told you earlier in the conversation, I documented the process.
Yeah.
And then I started applying it. Kwame, oh, they know you're the same. Oh, brand in your mouth.
Right.
Why you wait? Okay. Then, you to come. Okay. You to come. Okay. So that's what I did. I went online. At that time, there was a guy called Gary V in the Chuck.
Gary V.
Yeah,
Gary V is my guy.
Gary V is back in the day.
Yeah.
Gary V was the one speaking about content when content wasn't sexy, when we didn't have Reels or TikTok. That's when I started looking at content marketing, branding, everything being calculated and doing it according to a script. So,
with such a busy schedule,
yes,
all around Africa and several parts of the world, how do you manage your time,
right,
and then also family time? Because
yes,
I can see the ring.
Yes. I live an integrated life, and I know it's not a very popular notion. So I'm not necessarily looking at work time, family time. And it's very, very integrated. I do a lot of research with my kids, for instance. I share a lot of my findings with them. I do a lot of that with my wife. So we merge and we spend a lot of time together in doing these things, the things they love, the things I love. And when of necessity I need to be away from one, the other one doesn't really hate me. So when I'm away from work understands that boss really needs to go, because if not, boss is here as much as he needs to. And when I need to be away from family understands that no, dad needs to go, because if dad didn't need to go, he wouldn't go. We're at that age, I don't know about you, but going out is very
difficult right now, man. I
don't know how we used to party, because right now loud noise they irritate my.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
No, you're right. Yesterday I was actually supposed to go out. They said it's Dad Lumba's 60th birthday. I
can't. There's too many people safe. I can't. Yeah. Right. So that's what I try and integrate. If you try and separate, you spread yourself too thin. Because remember, there's another person you didn't mention. Self. There is self-time or time for self. There's time for family. There's time for friends. There's time for spirit. There's time for soul. There's time for body. Think about it. So it needs to integrate somehow. So when we work out at home, everybody goes to the gym.
Right.
Everybody's going to work out.
Right.
So that in that time we're spending time together whilst we're working out, the sermon is playing, so we're listening to the word of God, discussing it. So that 1 hour in the gym, we spend time together as a family, we listen to the word of God, we worked out, we all go sit down, have lunch or then something like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. There are several interviews when I watched them, and then you said that this whole thing about public speaking, becoming a global leader, thought leader, it started from when you met the South African man.
Vuzi.
Yeah.
Tembekwayo. My public speaking journey started when I started preaching at age 15. Today I'm going to tell the story for real. 15 years old, I got born again. BEC. When we finish BEC in Ghana, they do all nights or they do Thanksgiving services. Went to one of these. They brought a preacher, Brother Justice Wilberforce. Never forget him. He came up there, preached hell so much. That night, I ran. Dude, this young man made them announce that when you're coming to church, bring a matchbox or lighter. Preached hell! Crying tears. That when at the end of their sermon, he said, light the match. Put your finger like this for as long as you can, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Then we did it. Then he said, if this is hot, imagine hell. Speed! I went to give my life to Christ. Gave my life to Christ. He saw me. He saw that I was very passionate about the message he had preached. He started training me, teaching me how to preach, how to speak, So at 15, 6 months after being born again, I had a megaphone. I was doing dawn broadcasting. You can't go to hell. I wanted to snatch people from hellfire. So the basis of my speaking actually came from there. 3 years in the journey, I realized that charisma had taken me so far. I had gifts. I could see things. And character, sanctification, things that needed to change on the inside. So I was a vessel of blessing, but my vessel itself was corrupted. 3 years later, I fell out, got angry. All the Opokuwari, you can ask about my track record in Opokuwari. I was a top guy, church stuff in Opokuwari. 348, they know me. If you ask who is Bishop Skodo, they'll tell you. Never told this story on any platform. During my time in Tasu and Suzo, school nearly got into trouble with me. As boys were dressing, I was preaching. People were dressing and taking their clothes off, and the bus was there almost empty. Preaching morning through afternoon. Who compared them with Suzo? Souls are perishing. Who see Suzo? Suzo here there. You want to go and talk to the Louis girls and destroy your life? Stay in school. Wow. So that's how I learned. 3 years later, 2009, I realized that the character flaws were catching up. The church didn't hold me, backlashing, all sorts of things. Boys' school is a small school. Everything goes around. It took the worldly people to accept me and love me. So I did that switch. That's what actually led me into entertainment. So when I left school, I was so angry at God and angry at the church. I was young and naive, then I know better. And then I'm like, okay, so this skill I have, what am I going to do with it? I learn, I read, I can memorize, I can speak, I have charisma. What am I going to do with it? 2 things: media, radio, TV. So that's where it started from. So I tried entertainment for about 3 years, tried to get in with Jay Foley, tried to get in with John Jermaine. John Jermaine finally helped me. I got on TV, did a bit of TV. Entertainment felt empty. I was coming from God. So everything there, the club, the alcohol, the women, the smoke, it was temporal. Right? It wasn't aligned. There was the emptiness. So I was like, no, this is not it. This is not who I am. This is not what I want to do. So eventually I said, okay, what else can I do with this public speaking that does not involve finishing my own life with alcohol and club and stuff like that? Yeah. And then public speaking emerged. And when it emerged, that's when the Gary Vaynerchuk days came. The Gary Vaynerchuk, Les Brown. But everybody I found was Oyibo or in America. So it's like, this public speaking, do you like Africa here? That do not go work. Who be who? That time we had Dave to me. You remember? There was a man. He was Ghana's foremost before Albert Okran. Dems came up. Dave to me was Ghana's foremost public speaker. When I was in Opokuwari, 2007, 2008, thereabout, he came out. He came to our school. At that time, he charged us 10,000. Then, that to me was big, right? So I'm like, but he was, at that time, the internet was coming up, so he had gone down. Apparently, people started finding out most of the content was from... Right. And then the sources were now kind of obvious on the internet, and he didn't adapt very quick to the internet. He was still being traditional. So he sort of got left. And then Albert and Comfort Okran came up with Springboard, sponsored by MTN. They were all over the place. So I'm like, that's it. But even them, it looks like it's because they're connected and they know who has built a public speaking brand from scratch and has become a top guy. And then my friend introduced me to Vuzi Tembekwayo. That first day in 2013, I knew. So I said to myself, this is the guy. This is the blueprint. From that moment, Vuzi carry cap, take picture. I carry cap, I take picture. Vuzi smile, sit down. I smile, I sit down. Vuzi say elocution, speak English in the diction and in the very tongue of English. That's why I speak like this. At home, this is not how I speak. That is what I'm doing. Modeled the guy, said I'll work my ass off for 10 years and I'll stand on the same stage with him. 7 years later, during COVID in 2020, I messaged him and said, by the way, all that 7 years, I was his #1 fan. Repost everything, comment on everything, like everything, message everything he did. I told him, till date, I have a backup of every single thing Vuzi ever posted from 2013, including going onto websites, inspecting the element, and drawing out audio from interviews on radio station websites. Wow. Yes. I said, I have a backup of everything you've ever done. If you ever lose your backup, call me. He didn't reply. He didn't, for 7 years, he was watching. 2020, I reached out. I was doing something called Global Conversations just to help people cope with the COVID. I reached out that day. Those times I was so crazy. That's the thing about me. I'm very, very daring. I'm not moved by any of these things. I messaged Vuzi, Trevor Noah, Obama, Oprah, Michelle Obama. Waiting. What will I lose? If they don't respond, who cares? But what if? And Vuzi responded. Say, hey, young man, I've paid attention to you for 7 years. You are beginning to hold your own. Let's do this conversation. Change the trajectory of my life and career. Now, about 4 years down the line, we've built a business together. We discussed everything. I spent 5 hours with him in SA in November, just telling him the entire plan of the next stage of my life. He gave me wisdom. He prayed for me. He calls me brother.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what happened.
What a mindset shift. Though.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
7 years.
7 years is what it took.
Most people don't have the patience.
No, please.
Where did you get it from?
Mama told me nothing good comes easy. Nothing worth keeping comes easy. Then as I come up, I realized that people of value had every cockroach trying to climb up their leg. So the only thing that stands out is consistency and value. So I understood that if I walked in a room, what would make a person of value notice me would be value. So I'll build it. No matter how long it takes, I will build it until I'm valuable enough that it fits his recognition pattern and he recognizes me. However long it took, it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. That foundation was mom, and then those early days of biblical preaching and stuff. You see all of these stories of David when he was anointed to be king, how long it took for him to be king. Joseph, when he saw the dream, how long it took for him to be prime minister. So those fundamental Christian concepts had built those systems in my head that almost at least it be 10 years thing. The promise to the delivery, normally God will do it like that 10 years. So for me, that was the base, and I was willing to put in the work, and I did.
You know, to grow up in Ghana.
Yes, sir.
Right, being born in Ghana, grow up in Ghana, and, you know, mingle with the system.
Yes, sir.
And be able to come out the way you have, it's a miracle.
Yes, sir. Literally.
Yes.
I say to people, I say this to you, brother, and I say this to the glory of God. Me safe. The thing that is working for me, I don't understand.
Right.
So I tell people, when you fight me, you go tired because you are not fighting me.
Not you.
Me self, I don't understand waiting the go on.
Yeah. So who are you fighting?
So who are you fighting? You are fighting something that it won't go anywhere. It's a miracle. Bro, at 10 years old, I didn't know what a beggar was. Beggar. I'd never seen water, pool, swimming pool, sea. I never see sea before.
Right.
I never left the confines of that small township called Domahinkro. The only way I knew there were things like horses and ranches was because my mom would come to Kumasi to his friends who were well-to-do, who have bought Daniel Steele books for their daughters. And the daughters are throwing the books away. Then she would pack them in a box, put them on the bus, bring them back. So it was through Daniel Steele, romantic novels, that I knew that there were horses and sunsets, and beautiful sunsets and ranches and walking by beaches and your toes leaving imprints on this. None of that was in my reality. This is a miracle.
So it is possible for an African man to be on the African soil and change their lives.
Forever.
Okay.
I am a living, breathing example. It is more than possible. More than possible.
So why is everybody running up and down thinking that the grass is greener elsewhere?
On the other side? In one sense, I can't blame them. In another sense, oftentimes, that option looks like a more plausible option. Because the idea is, how many of us are actually out here telling our stories like this? But how many people go there and say, oh, Joe, life, I come on me by Europe. So that narratives, remember, the dominant narrative prevails. What happened with slave queens, hookup culture. It wasn't because there were not women who were being successful through hard work, but because those women were not dominating the narrative. The narrative was dominated by. So now the young girl pops up, age 22, 23, 24. Her father's age people are coming for her age mates, our age mate, everybody is gunning for her. She sits down and she says, okay, let me look in the spectrum. Where is the CEO of Vodafone who was a woman? Where's her story? Not there. Where is the CEO of Busy Internet who was a woman? Not there. Where are the, okay, but where are the others? Oh, this one, Slay Queen 1, 2, you're driving a Benz, 3. Dominant narrative. So, okay, cool. Then let me hit the gym, get my Botox stocked up and get in the game. Looks like this is the way it works.
Yeah.
So not that the alternate is not possible. The alternate is not popular. That's the problem.
The people they take as their role models and their benchmark.
Yes, sir.
It's completely wrong.
Yes, sir.
You know, one of your videos on Facebook, you spoke about men's mental health.
Yes.
And while I was speaking to you with so much fire.
Yes, sir.
Because sometimes we go through it.
All the time we go through it.
How do you deal with it?
I have a song I sing every day. To be here, man, now. Wow. Life is hard, period. The way we deal with life is to take up responsibility. And this is how Jesus puts it. If you will follow me, you must deny yourself and pick up your cross.
Okay.
Responsibility gives meaning to life. Outside of responsibility, outside of doing something, being committed to something that affects somebody other than you, it can easily become meaningless. Here's why a lot of boys become men when they have children.
You know what I'm smiling?
No.
So spot on.
Yes, sir.
It's so spot on.
Yes, sir. It's the way.
I started taking care of my siblings when I was 17 years old.
Thank you very much. You'll grow. You'll be a man.
And for that reason,
Life will have meaning.
something is always happening.
Yes, sir. Life will have meaning. There will never be a dull moment.
Being accountable.
Being accountable, being committed, being responsible for something other than yourself. That's why marriage makes men strong, makes women, and children does that. Your business will do that to you. A committed friendship will do that to you. The way to deal with the misery of the world is to pick up your cross and to walk with it. It's to determine that at the end of the day, in the final analysis, the world will be left a better place because you were in it. That's what gives meaning to all of the horrendous suffering, because life is hard.
And to top that up, that comes with understanding what your true calling is.
Yes, sir.
Because when you identify what a true calling is, it's hard, but it's easier.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, sir. Purpose has a way of making pain bearable. Think about it. If you got hurt, you got cut, and they needed to put some alcohol in it, that pain is unbearable. But you understand the purpose of that pain. The purpose of the pain is to kill the sore so that you can regain your health. So because of that purpose, that pain is bearable. Pain becomes very unbearable outside of purpose. That's the construct. So again, I'm sorry, I study the Bible a lot. It predominantly dominates my thoughts. So Jesus says, if it be possible, take the cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, your will. Why? Because he understood the why. So you've heard Simon Sinek talk about know your why. Mm-hmm. The why is the purpose, is the reason. It is the transcendent idea behind what it is you're doing. That's what makes life bearable. Otherwise, there's no sense to it. Think about it. When you get to the basic place where you're not able to put food on the table, you can afford the basics. When you unplug a little bit, life looks like a very redundant circle. Auntie Anweni, it's night again, it's morning again. Same thing, night again, morning. Is that it? That's why people shift to all these holistic ideas. Life has no meaning. I want to off myself. I want to unalive myself. All of these things. Purpose. Responsibility. Pick up something and do it with all your might and with all your strength. And it needs to be something that benefits people other than you. That's where it starts.
I've gotten to that place where I'm like, poof, it just dropped in. It just dropped in.
Yes, sir.
Just dropped in. I was telling my wife, I think yesterday, that I can sit here for 10 hours and keep having conversations upon conversations upon conversations.
Yes, sir.
Because truly, it's not about me.
No. Otherwise, we'll be having lunch and doing this one-on-one.
You know, we can have a good chat.
Yes,
and the things we even speak about.
You are building a domain of knowledge that would serve generations unborn.
Yeah.
You're literally building a library of ideas that will serve unborn generations. That's transcendent. That gives meaning to life. So that if one of the cameras drop and you need to buy another one, painstakingly paying for it, but you remember there are 5 souls that need this camera. It is for them that I'm bearing this pain and buying another camera. It's not that I want to, anybody send you. Nobody send you. Nobody send you.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
You've got to love this, man. You've got to love this. I've gotten to the place where I want to say you've just received free value from this episode so far. So the only thing you can do to support me and every other guest that comes here is to subscribe and share.
Yeah.
Because we want more people to get to hear these things, because we're on a journey of changing people's mindset and their perspective about the African landscape. But anyway, what's the best advice you ever received?
Ooh, I have received a ton. Best advice: know God for yourself.
You heard that. You heard that. You know, before you get thrown about like a basketball.
Know God for yourself.
Yeah. That's very powerful.
Know God for yourself.
And what's your favorite personal development book? Because I know you read a lot, but I wanna keep it at personal development.
Oh, I don't want this to be a cliche one. It's a fight. Greatest man in Babylon. 40 Laws of Power.
Yep.
Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese? It's about 3 mice. Akura. Go read that book. Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah.
Have you got anything for my audience?
First off, subscribe. He's doing amazing and fantastic. And guys, you do not dim your light when you shine it on others. Nothing. You lose nothing in your light when you shine it on others. All right? So subscribe. It won't cost you anything. You subscribe to that other channel. What do you need to do for you? You know what? So, what else? Perilous times are ahead. So whatever you do, believe in something. I have no recommendations for you. I love Christ. You could try that. But the times that are coming, there's a principle in the universe. I'll wrap up with this. There's a principle in the universe called gather, scatter principle. The gather, scatter principle states that there is no middle ground in anything. Jesus said, it is either you are gathering with me, or that the mere fact that you are not gathering with me means that you are scattering. In other words, you are either actively part of the solution or you're part of the problem.
Wow.
By a certain concept called the bondage of decay, which happened by the fall, which science actually is called entropy. Science calls it entropy.
Yes.
I call it bondage of decay. It's in the Bible. Science actually finds 5,000 years later everything the Bible has stated. So all the scientists go and read the Bible. You'll get the gist early. The bondage of decay. Once the fall happened, we started dying. That's the reason why if you leave this room empty, you don't need to bring dust. Go and come 1 month. It will be cobwebs and everything. Because anything that is left begins to descend into chaos. So by the very idea of descent into chaos by nature, how you keep things in order is that you need to keep pushing it towards order. So immediately you leave something in the middle unattended, it starts to ripple into chaos. It starts to ripple into decay. That's why people do some of the most insensitive, silly things when they are bored, when their brain was left, when they were in the middle. Indecisiveness is the decision to corruption. There's no such thing as I've not decided. You think you are undecided, but actually you've decided for the negative. So the point I'm making with this whole scatter gather idea is that the time that is coming, you cannot be in the middle. Cannot be, I'm not here. Me too, I'm not here. No. By not being here, you've chosen here. By not being in the light actively, you've chosen darkness. So whatever it is, either be actively part of the solution or you are actively part of the problem. And if there's anything I will leave with you, I'll say to you, perilous times are ahead. Take a stand. Believe in something. No matter what you do, today can mark the first day of the rest of your life. What I mean is everything you've done to bring your life to where you are today, you can hit the reset button and start a new operating system that starts to do things very, very differently. And subscribe.
Hey, I've enjoyed this entire episode, but there's another video that's currently being shown here. Click on that and then watch it. And then also let me know what you think about this particular one. If you've just been on the audio platforms on Spotify or Apple podcast, then, we want to review. We want to improve and we want to understand where this is going. Taking audience feedback. And thank you so much for being with us. My name is Derek Abaite and I'm out. Stay connected.